Welcome to the Prowler Podcast. Today, we're thrilled to have Dusty Bradford with us today. We're ready to dive into a parent's perspective of the recruiting process and how the Prowler benefited his son's recruiting process out of high school. So, without further ado, let's turn it over to Mr. Dusty to give a brief backstory of how they became the first Prowler athlete and how the Prowler's approach benefited his son, Wes Bradford. So, turn it over to Mr. Dusty here, and we'll get going.
Okay. Yeah, it's actually a pretty cool story. My sister moved to North Carolina. She had flown into town and was going to watch Wes play football, and run into Preston downtown Huntsville somewhere over there. And he asked her what she was doing in town. Said she was here to watch her nephew play football. They got talking, and he told her about this service you guys are starting up, like a recruiting service. Won't know if she'd be interested in. So that's really how we met Preston. He approached us about this package that he's got put together, this recruiting business he wanted to put together, and of course we were interested in it. We were interested in trying to play at the next level. Wes wanted, that's what his goal was try to make it the next level. So any kind of help you can get there now. We hadn't been through that before. So any kind of advice or we were open to anything like that to try to help us walk through the process. So Preston come over, talked to Wes, met him at a ball game. We had signed up with the service there, and pretty much right away, we started getting some interest. So it was pretty interesting that it happened as quick as it did after the season started.
Right. Go ahead, Preston.
No, you're exactly right. It was quite the coincidence. I was actually working my part-time job at the Westin there in Bristol, and I talked to everybody. I'm pretty outgoing, so yeah. And then she messaged me, I think later, about 6 months later, asking if I was still launching the platform, and I did. And she put me in contact with Wes, and yeah, it was pretty quick turnaround with Wes. But honestly, we do see a pretty quick turnaround with a lot of our athletes. But we try to make sure the athlete is actually serious when we bring them on, which if the athlete's serious, we have very good success in that area, which Wes for sure saw good success because he went from 0 to, I think, roughly 9 to 10 offers, right, by the end of this.
Yeah, there's the end. He had probably 10, 11. And, we had, once he kind of got interested in Illinois College, we had 2 or 3 more there that we never even followed up on.
Correct.
They were a little further away. South Florida area and places like that. So, he was wanting to kind of stick around. He liked the program at Illinois College, so that's why he kind of zoned in on it. So that was a good thing about it, is it gave us options. That's one thing we liked about it. Like your package, you pick areas, pick states that you want to maybe interested in living in or relocating to, and you target that area. And that's what he did. We started targeting areas where he thought he might be interested in, and then the offers start coming. So it's pretty amazing how it worked as quickly as it worked.
Right. That's pretty awesome how, it shows people how you can go from having no exposure to all the exposure with the Prowler. So,
Yep.
Today's podcast subject. So we've had high school athletes like Wes, and then we've had some college athletes like my buddy Michael and Christian. And then we're trying to get a parent's perspective at this point, like how has it affected the parents in a way? So from a parent's perspective, Mr. Dusty, what was the recruiting journey like before joining the Prowler?
So early on, I'd say between his sophomore, junior year, like I said, you just kind of read things online. You don't really know what's out there. So, we started going to these exposure camps. A lot of those around the Birmingham area. It's usually the same colleges, they come to those same D3 top, D2 top colleges, come to those places. So early on, we're trying to go to those exposure camps. You try to build a relationship with some of the coaching staff there. And early on, I wasn't very happy with how that was going. Not from a recruiting perspective, but just, you don't get a lot of information. So you kind of pull somebody to the side, ask them some questions, hey, how does recruiting work? So I was able to pick up things like, you got to get your Twitter profile, your huddle link, keep all that stuff up to date. With the information they wanted in the Twitter thing, you got that kind of stuff at those camps. But it really wasn't a lot of exposure. Like I said, it was always the same camps, but the same thing. And you're paying, $200, $250 per camp. So we went to camps around, Birmingham, some in Georgia, some in Mississippi, kind of the same top camps with pretty similar schools. Like I said, you're paying, a couple $100 for each one of those. so early on, I noticed there wasn't a lot of exposure. Really, we just continued to go because of the reps he got. So I was more looking at it from, okay, this is not really a recruiting thing. You might get some attention here, but there's actually a lot of good athletes there. So the way I looked at it was, hey, I'll take him and let him get some reps in because he's actually, learning some different defenses. I was looking at more of a practice type thing than I was the exposure thing, because exposure wasn't really doing anything for us. So after that, once you guys signed up, the difference was, you guys are a little more accessible. You've been through it. You're able to answer questions. And like I said, right away, you see that you have an impact. So, for somebody as a parent coming into this, especially if you're not familiar with the process, which I was not, you guys were a lot more accessible to us. You answer questions, things like, hey, once you get to interest, what about signing? How does that go about? It's things like that you guys were able to assist with. And then when you look at the pricing part that you guys offer, if you go to, 5 camps a year at $200 a piece, look what you're spending, on really exposure, supposed to be exposure camps, but it's not really a lot of exposure. You're kind of practicing in front of the same type of schools at every one of those. There's not a lot of outreach there. So, you guys were able to reach out, much further distances. And like I said, the process is much better, in my opinion, for what you're getting for the exposure and getting your kid out there.
Right. And go ahead, Preston.
No, you're good. I didn't say nothing. Well,
I thought you were about to say something.
go ahead. You can go ahead and tie it in, and then I'll say something in a little bit.
And yeah, I mean, I have some experience with those little camps. You go to these camps and they make it seem like a big deal, and then it's really not, and you don't really get much exposure. And so,
no, you don't.
He
met one coach there. There was a coach Mallard there from Huntington. And we really made a connection with him just because he was coaching DBs, and he kind of took a like in the West. So we was really kind of following him around this camp to let him work with West. So I was looking more of like a skills training than I was exposure, because that's what it turned into for us. So there was really they call it exposure camp. There's really nothing there. And then of course, once you sign up for those programs, you go and you register your child, and you're going to start getting mass emails. So you sign, yes, my kid is interested in playing the next level. So you start getting more of these camp invites and things like that. They're not really interested in the kid; they're more interested in that $200, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you start getting those, and then of course you'll have other recruiting services reach out to you. Some of those things are $3,000, $3,500. They put your kid on like a roster. Supposedly like the national database where your kid's a running back or safety or a linebacker, they can go search for your kid. Supposedly, these coaches come to that. We didn't follow through with any of that. We had a few kids from West Morgan graduated earlier that did do that service and got absolutely nothing out of that. So that was just complete money blown. So we was not interested in trying that.
Right. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with going to these camps, but like there's certain camps, you need to look into and figure out like what's the best camp for me. Like obviously you're going to learn something if you're going to a camp, right? But also you're wanting to learn and you're wanting to get exposure, and you need to find the right. Like there's camps that are good, but there's also camps that are just like they're money hungry. So not to.
What we noticed was actually the cheaper camps, like the $45 camps, like UNA, Mississippi State, some of those camps like that are $45. Those we got more out of those because you're one-on-one with your position specific coaches.
Right.
A lot more staff there to help. So, there again, it's not really exposure. We went to MTSU. That was a good one. Like I said, there was some good camps as far as skill training. Right. And you do get a connection with some of the coaches, some of the players. Like I said, it was the cheaper ones that are local to your area are really just money grabs, and I would not recommend going to those except for reps, basically.
Right.
No, you're exactly right. It's these exposure camps. I don't really recommend them much because you just know your money, and you're pretty much just going. Yeah, you're gonna get good quality training, but you can get that training with your high school coach at the end of the day, right? That's what Ty has shown. That's currently at West Morgan. I have deterred them away from those camps, except for like the U.S. Army Bowl Combine, because if you get chosen for that game in Dallas, you're in front of no telling how many scouts. Even NFL scouts will be at that game,
Mm.
and it's on ESPN every year. So I know Ty went and attempted to try out for the combine, and he had very good numbers. He didn't get picked for it, but they have 7 locations across the country where they only pick 52 players for the total roster. So with that, you know, I always tell the player, you want to go to these prospect camps or these mega prospect camps that university colleges put on, because they'll have their own connections to other universities, whether, you know, it's like UT Chat, UT Martin, and Tennessee. They're all connected because they're all owned by University of Tennessee. So if you're at the UT Chat camp, you're most likely going to have Tennessee scouts that are looking at you. So that's why we always push you to go to those pretty much what they call as prospect camps. And you can get invited to that. And if you get invited to that, that looks better on your resume to a coach, because that shows a coach has that interest in you, you know. So we try to deter any players from going those, you know, expo camps or anything, because we want them to get direct exposure with the coaches, not, you know, just quality film, which you're going to get quality film. And if a player does want to get that, we recommend them go play 7-on-7 in the spring.
Yeah. 7-on-7 is really, really, really good exposure too.
So, I mean, because you're going to go play against teams that come out of Atlanta that's coached by Cam Newton and got studs across the board, you know. So that's where we stand on that. I mean, it's a hit or miss, you know. So
yeah, it's like I said, it was good for reps, and like I said, I enjoyed watching him. You know, in his position is playing safety, but he got a lot of DB drills too, so you know, a lot of footwork stuff and things like that. So I was able to I was happy with seeing the progress there, you know, junior year and the senior year. But really, like I said, there was really no colleges coming after him as far as exposure wise or anything like that, because they're more interested in the film and things like that, which you guys provide.
Right. And so, Mr. Dusty, you've obviously shared some of your thoughts on the Prowler, you know, and the process and everything. But what do you think about the AI system that we've Preston created within your son's email and social media platform? What do you think about that whole process?
It's pretty fascinating, really. What I understand about it, we use AI some at work as far as you know, we do a lot of modeling and things like that in a chemical process unit. So we use a lot of the AI stuff there. So it's interesting what it's capable of doing. So I wasn't sure when we first, you know, got onto this, you know, if he was individually sending out these emails, or I was like, man, this guy's, you know, he's getting all these players, and how's he doing this in such a timely fashion? So, you know, it was pretty interesting to find out how he was doing it with using the AI technology to do that with. And like I said, and it was, you know, whatever you're doing on your end, I haven't seen it, but it's pretty impressive as far as how quick we got responses, and you know, how it was generating interest right away. So you know, we basically signed up for the senior year. So you know, the offer started coming in, you know, shortly after season started. So you know, it was when I initially heard about this, I figured you were doing all this manually. I had no idea that it was an AI type deal that was doing this. So that caught my attention right away. Thought it was pretty interesting to hear how you had utilized that technology to do this.
Yeah, and we're constantly updating it. Like I'm in the process of trying to initiate a button, because right now I have to manually approve the responses to the coaches, right? Because I don't want to, if the player wants to respond in a personal field, I want them to have the opportunity to do that. But we're also in the process of trying to enable pretty much a link to be texted to the athlete with what the response will be from the AI system, and they'll be able to approve it from their end. We haven't got close to getting that rolled out, but we're hoping within the next few months we can get that rolled out. That would be pretty cool, because it'll put the ball in the athlete's court, you know, right? Because we want the athlete to be comfortable with whatever it generates at the end of the day. We don't want to just always email back or respond back on Twitter with any kind of response, you know, because there's some players that wanted that more personal response, because they want a coach that's more personal with them, you know, just like Wes found out with Illinois College. You know, they were a lot more hands-on and more in depth with you compared to what Lindsey Wilson offered, you know. So
you know, I was a little nervous about it when I first heard that's what it was, because then you get thinking, okay, you know, Preston's obviously an educated guy, you know, older guy, more experienced guy, so much different language than a high school kid would have, at 16, 17, 18 years old. So in the beginning, I was wondering, I was like, how is that going to work? Does the coach think he's talking to the kid, or, who is the coach think he's talking to? So I had those questions early on. But, what I noticed was, if the coaches were really interested, then they got the phone number, and there's a lot of times, most times on Sundays, we'd be around the house, and then a coach from whatever college it was interested in, they would actually call him and talk to him. So I was kind of, laughing about that early on. I was thinking, that there's no telling what the email looks like versus what the actual conversation sounds like.
Correct.
But I was pleased that it worked so well. So I was thinking, they're doing something right because he's got interest, and they're not just calling BS on this.
That's exactly right.
It's pretty interesting how that everything works. It's changing every single day. AI is becoming big. So, but Mr. Dusty, if you were to go back and do this again, like joining the Prowler and everything, what would be your reasoning for joining the Prowler?
I would have tried it our junior year for sure. If I knew it was out there, that technology was out there, you guys were out there, I would have definitely tried. Going after a little earlier, junior year especially. Giving junior year, senior year, and just to get more, cast a wider net possibly. As any parent, your fear is, your kid going, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours away, or even across country, going from Alabama to California or something like that, So I probably would have started the process a little earlier and maybe cast a little wider net to see, what else was out there. But, in the end, it worked out real well. He found a program that he felt good at. Like I said, you really just, as a parent, you're looking for more options, right? So, your fear is not really your fear, but, you would hope that you could still drive down on Saturday morning, watch your kid play or practice or whatever, So with them being 8, 10, 12 hours away, it's a little different. But, in the end, once you visit the colleges and he finds something that he feels home at, then you feel a little better about, even if it is 8, 10, 12 hours away. But I wish it would have probably started, like I said, it was the first one, so it wasn't really available his junior year. So if I could go back and start it process over, then I would definitely start it earlier than his senior year, just to get some more options out there to see what's possibly available.
Yeah, I think it's always better to start early so you know what you're looking for, because you'll get more used to it as you go on throughout, like, high school, and you'll figure out like where you want to be. And if you're talking to coaches like, oh man, I really like that coach, I really want to pursue that guy, and you just keep on messaging them and stuff, and it'll all work itself out. And so at the end of the day, Wes is going to Illinois College. What was your most positive takeaway from the Prowler as a platform in general?
The positive takeaway to me was, how quickly it worked. Like I said, junior year, we're doing the exposure college visit things or whatever the college camps around, like the local areas. We jumped to this senior year, and immediately we noticed a change. It changed. The offer started coming in this immediately after swapping. And then just how easy you guys are to work with you're local here to me. You're only 45 minutes or so away in Huntsville. So you're local there. It's a real personal approach. You guys come over, watch some games. Got to meet you and the family and things like that. It just made us feel a lot better about the whole process. We could tell that you guys are doing it for the right reasons. I watched Coach Phillips, podcast the other night, and he hit on that. Was he's pretty skeptical about about people using kids, right? So he could tell right away that you guys were doing this for the right reasons. You want to help the kids. It's not about a money grab or taking advantage of kids who have dreams. You're doing it for the reason being that to help the kids and realize their own dreams. So it's just a real personal deal. Like I said, I'm glad we met you guys, and it's worked out well for us.
And that's always a goal, seeing these kids that have talent but aren't going to not going to play college ball, and they have talent but they just never get the exposure. And that's really what Preston, and he's built this whole platform off of that, getting these kids exposure and getting them to a college to play ball. And that's the goal at the end of the day. And so what would you tell other parents about the Prowler, and how could it benefit their athlete?
The benefit to me is two things. First, if your kid does have a goal of playing at the next level, this gets their persona and film and contacts out there. So you start making contacts with these college coaches immediately. So that's your biggest advantage here, is to get that film out there, or those contacts with those coaches are starting to show interest. The other thing is, like I said, the advice that you guys get. You guys have been through the process. Both of you played college ball, so you were familiar with that. For me, somebody like me who has not done that, we were completely oblivious to how that whole process works. So not only were you guys there for getting exposure to him or for him, but you were also there for when I had questions. It was just an email away or a text message away saying, hey, we're here. At what point do we, should we be worried about committing? So we don't lose a spot. Things like that, stuff that I was not familiar with at all. So, y'all walked me through that whole deal too. I talked to Preston, hey, he's visited these colleges that you went out here and got to show interest in him. We visited several of them. He's pretty much narrowed his picks down. This is where he wants to go. What's the next step? So he was able to walk us through that and land us a good spot to be at.
Right, and that's a part of the process. You got to figure out where you want to go, where you want to be, what coaches you like the best. Like even like meeting the players. Like what atmosphere do I want to be in? Like brotherhood. It's a brotherhood. Who do I want to be around every single day? And Illinois College is a smaller D3 school, and there's nothing wrong with that. With how what do you think about these athletes going to a smaller college to mature and get more experience nowadays, because of the transfer portal? What do you think about the idea of going smaller?
Of course, every kid's got their dream of playing, Auburn, Alabama, Mississippi State, the big D1 schools that you're going to watch on TV on Saturdays, but, it's such a small percentage of kids get that opportunity. Especially, being a smaller school, 2A, 3A, 4A schools. Most of those kids unless they really stand out, they're looking for your 7A, 6A type school standouts. Of course, the transfer portal has hurt the middle ground, like as far as your D2 schools. Kids that are going to the D1 stuff who aren't getting to play, they want to play, they want to compete. So, of course, it kind of made it easier for the coaches to go out here and they go to the portal and pick their kids instead of having to go scout all this high school tape that's out there. So, after talking to some people, like I said, you realize that there's nothing wrong with that, the D3 stuff. A lot of guys want the full ride things, the D1 and all that. And I completely understand that. But as far as player development, there's nothing wrong with the D3 stuff, especially now. It's still a small percentage of kids get that opportunity.
Right. Yeah. It's college ball,
That's right. So it's still not like like you failed or something, or you're not a quality player. That's what I encouraged him to do was, hey, I know you probably want to go, D1 somewhere. Of course, that's all kids' dreams is to share that kind of stuff. But, as far as development, player development, and that's what I'm focused on here is, let's go to a good program somewhere where, like I said, you're comfortable with a coach. The coach that we went to within college, he was really adamant about, why he come after Wes, his approach to getting on the field on Saturdays. He walked him through the process there. So, it was good for us to hear, what his viewpoint was. But yeah, that's what we're looking at is getting somewhere where he can continue to grow. And then, he may fall in love with the place and want to stay there and finish his career out there, get his education there. If not, if he continues to grow and improve, then who knows what other doors may open out there. So, I think getting your kid in a good program that they feel comfortable in, that's what the Prowler did for us, to give us those options to go investigate where we felt that school was going to be. So we feel like we found it, thanks to the Prowler. And now want to watch Wes continue to grow, and hopefully he'll continue to, gain some weight. That was one of the things that, he's tall, but he's also thin. So, a lot of your D1 schools are wanting to be 20, 30 pounds heavier.
Right.
So he can go to a smaller program, develop. And like I said, he may get playing time there and love it and then like the area, get his education there. If not, then he can hopefully have options there as far as growing and moving up from there.
No, that's correct, and that's our goal. Is because with the transfer portal and everything nowadays, so many kids get tiered away from because they're not getting that D1 dream anymore. Because a lot of coaches are not going to high school athletes anymore because they can go find that transfer portal athlete that's first off proved himself academically. They don't got to babysit him as much no more.
Yep, he's already been vetted out already.
Correct, because he's 21, 22 probably. Because heck, I was on the last podcast. I was talking to Will. There was a guy that just got granted his 9th year of eligibility.
I saw that.
So, things like that are happening every day now with the atmosphere of college football. And to go to a smaller school, I see no wrong in it. We see kids now in the Division I level that's from D3, D2 schools previously.
Yep.
And a prime example of that is Javon Wims. He's not very well known, but he did get drafted to the NFL. He came from Belhaven, where I played at.
He had some good years with the Bears.
Correct. He came from Belhaven, where I played at, transferred to Georgia, ended up becoming one of the star receivers with Aaron Murray. So,
yep.
The sky's the limit. You just got to put the work in, and like you said,
it wasn't Aaron Murray. It was Jake Fromm.
That's right, Jake Fromm. You just got to find the right program to get into, and Illinois College is known for that. They're always in the playoffs every year in Division III. They're not a name that's not knocked by anybody up there. Everyone knows who they are. They're always consistent. They're not going to be a letdown in any way. So they get a very recognizable program, and I see the benefit for sure going that route.
Yep.
Especially as a 2A, 3A, 4A player, because if you do get recognition and go Division I, you don't want to be sitting on the bench and wasting years of eligibility.
No reason for all that.
And Will's buddy talked about that a couple weeks ago that plays baseball at Jacksonville State now. He went to Kentucky thinking he had to go to the big D SEC school, right? Well, they kept transferring in players in front of him, and he was wasting his 2 years of eligibility, so he transferred to FCS, and then they ended up being FBS now, so they're FBS now. And so that approach is, the transfer portal has got its negatives, no doubt, but it's also opening the door for these athletes to find a place to grow and to get to that level if they truly want to, So I truly think out of the athletes that came out of West Morgan last year, there's 3 of them, including West, that has the opportunity to get to the D1 level if they put the work in. So
yeah, I think so. It was like I said, you guys had a good impact there. Done a lot for the kids this year, which we had a pretty stacked team. So it was a lot of talent on the team. Like I said, Ty's still down there. He's getting a lot of exposure this year. You guys are helping him. I think he's already had 2 D1 offers already.
correct.
So there's a lot of talent on that team, and to see that many kids with offers. I think we had 10 sign, and I think 12 had offers too, just elected not to take them.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of talent, but you guys were able to come in and make an impact. So it was good to see you guys come in and be able to work with those kids and get them the exposure they needed to move on. Signing day down there at West Morgan was, it's kids lined up for one end of the others. That was pretty impressive to see that. I think you guys had 5 of them. I think 5 of the 10 or something like that.
I think we had 5 or 6. I can't remember. It was Marvian, Jeremy, Wes, Walker. Oh no, it was 5 because Braxton was one of the ones that didn't sign.
Yeah, Braxton he elected not to take his. Yep, Braxton had some offers. But yeah, it's the biggest thing, like you said, is just getting exposure out there and giving your kids options, and that's what I enjoyed the most out of the experience was the options that we had. We didn't feel like we were just settling for the 1 or 2 offers that would come in, and that's kind of where we were at prior to signing with you guys. Was we had interest from Huntington and Montgomery, and that was really from the camp where he made a connection with Coach Mallard that was the DB coach there. Coach Mallard ended up taking a grad assistant job at Auburn, and I think he may be in USA or somewhere now. I think he worked at Auburn 1 year, grad assistant, moved. So that was the one place that showed interest out of all the places we had gone, and still no offer from that. But like I said, when you guys come on, we ended up getting an offer from there and several others, and it gave us options for it. So we was able to start visiting and narrow it down. And like you said, it is a culture thing. Those guys, when you go as a parent, of course they're trying to track your kid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing Illinois College did. They do draw some kids out of the South. So when we went up there for the visit, they had a table set up, and a lot of kids from the South were eating lunch together. So Wes got to sit down and eat with some kids that were from Alabama here, middle of Alabama. So even walked it through, how they drive down and all that kind of stuff. So, it was a good visit there. And like I said, all that was because of the exposure you guys got. I don't know if that offer would have come, and he wouldn't have found that school if it wasn't for what you guys were doing.
Right, and that's always good. I didn't know that. I mean, Wes sitting down with those kids from the South, that's really good because it gives you a piece of home almost.
Yeah.
Being from back home. So
That's
as Wes and Mr. Dusty, we don't only target one division. Like we go after all the schools, and obviously you all select a state. And do you find it beneficial that we go after every single school in that state, like to find as many opportunities as we can? Do you think that's beneficial?
Yes, it is. I mean, look at the net you're casting right there. You don't realize how many of the smaller schools have football programs until you start, getting these offers. It's a lot of schools that you've never heard of before because, of course, everybody's watching football on Saturdays and everything's D1. So if it's not a local school to you, most likely you don't know about it. But there's a lot of those schools out there that have football programs that open the doors. So when you cast that net to those type of facilities, NCAA and NAIA, you had interest from both. I don't know what you want to call it, conferences or whatever you would call that breakdown there. It's the net that you cast there in that state. Like I said, you had interest from Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, Alabama, Florida. He was trying to hit all those, and we actually was able to get an offer from almost each one of them. So it was good to see that. Hey, if you pick a state, you're not really blowing money on that. There's a good chance you're going to get an offer from that state if you just put your trust in the system and let you guys do your thing. The offers will come.
No, that's correct. And like you said, I think Wes had actually 3 offers in Kansas, and actually we drew so much interest from one school in Kansas that the coach actually drove down here, I think right before Thanksgiving, and attended one of your games. And
he was at the corner game.
He offered 2 of the players. That was on the team that I don't know was getting that much recognition at the time. I don't think they ended up going with them, but it did help them. And just like that one, I think it was number 4. I don't recall his name.
Yep.
But he ended up committing to Mom. Jamari
Burgess, one of Wes's good friends. He played corner. And it was a corner game when the coach come out from, I think it was Sterling. Come down, and Jamari had a really good game, and he offered Jamari there at the game. That was Jamari's first offer. So yeah, it was. Kansas was pretty heavy there. Like I said, I think it was 3 schools in Kansas that all had good programs. I think one of them was Kansas Wesleyan. We looked at that one pretty heavy too.
Yeah, Kansas Wesleyan and Illinois College are pretty close. And
I talked to Kansas Wesleyan in college.
Yeah, actually, Will, didn't you have a buddy that attended there and then ended up transferring to?
No, he went to
Jay Shirty or whatever his name is.
He went to a community college in Illinois.
Okay. But no, they're both Kansas Wesleyan and Illinois College are both prestige programs. As I told you, those were my 2 top choices for Wes if I was him.
That was big for us too. To have somebody with your background, helping along with that. Saying, hey, this is a good program here. This is a good program here. With your connections, and you were right. You would say it, and then I'd come home. I might study it for a couple hours on Friday night after the game, or might study it on Saturday or something, and try to do some background into who was getting these offers. And you were right there. So the advice that you were able to offer helped a lot in me making my decision up on where do we, once it comes down to visits, if you got visits in Kansas and Illinois and Florida, you can only go to so many of them, so you have to narrow it down early. And your advice there, as far as, hey, this is one you want to look at, this is one you want to look at, that helped us narrow down where we wanted to focus our visits to.
Correct. And I mean, nothing against the local colleges, but it just like one of the athletes that came out of West Morgan, he committed to Birmingham Southern, and I knew there was a great possibility that they were going to be closing down due to the funding issues they were experiencing. And that's why I told Wes quickly to tear away from that. If he's willing to go away from home, which I know a lot of athletes aren't, they do want to stay close to home, which is totally understandable. It just, there's certain schools here in the South that, first of all, they're struggling with funding for some reason. It's just not Birmingham Southern, that is. And their program doesn't have the technology and the resources to be able to give the athlete fully what they need to reach that next level. And as I see Wes, I see a great body frame, just like Jacksonville State coach said to him when he went to the game invite. If he had 20 more pounds, he'd be D1.
Yeah.
That's why I influenced that route, because if he can get with the right coaches and the right program with the right resources, who knows? We might see Wes playing on Saturday one day for some schools.
Yeah.
So.
That's what the Illinois college coach told us. Is Coach Frisco. He told us that when he comes home for Christmas, expect to see him probably 20 pounds heavier, but from August to Christmas. So he was already talking about, getting him on a weight program and everything, and the diet and all that. So, we look for improvement to come from there, so it's be interesting to see where it goes, good opportunity there. And like I said, we're thankful for the opportunity he's been given. And a lot of that thanks goes to you guys for reaching out there and finding those opportunities for these kids.
And talking about gaining the weight, I used to be pretty, coming up through high school, I was pretty skinny. I just started, eating stuff, and I finally gained weight. But getting in the right program, getting all the technology we have nowadays, you can calculate your body fat, what you need to eat to gain that weight, and all these programs have that. So that's a good thing. Every single college program, they're going to put weight on you. You're working out every single day, you're eating the right food, you're doing the right thing. So I think it's good that
they want to compete and they want to develop talent. So that's what the kids are going for, right? They want to compete and they want to develop their talent. So it's a win for the college and a win for the kid also.
But what advice would you give an athlete, coming out of high school? What would be the most beneficial to them? What should they do as they're getting recruited out of high school, as a parent?
As a parent, obviously, like I said, if your kid's really set on, playing at the next level, that's their dream. That's what they want to do. We did this. Well, I'll say this early on. We changed coaching staff here in Wes's sophomore year, so we weren't getting a lot of with the previous staff. We weren't getting a lot of agility training and things like that. So we really started working on skills because we weren't getting it practice. But then we changed coaching staff. That coaching staff was really heavy on agility and then strength, and so that fully transformed the team and the individuals. You saw them getting faster, you saw them getting stronger. So we didn't have to look outside of the school for that. So that's one thing, we were kind of zoned in on early on. His ninth grade year was, they're not really getting a lot of weight training, things like that. So we was concerned about that early on. But so, the parents should be involved and kind of looking at things like that and thinking, okay, if my kid's going to continue to develop through high school, is the school providing all that, or do I need to go out here and find some outside service to provide that? Luckily, with our new coaching staff that come in, when Coach Phillips come in 10th grade year, they provided all that in-house. So we didn't worry about the agility camps and things like that we're going with personal trainers. The other thing, I would say is, be involved in the program. You find out a lot about your coaching staff. It's our coach will tell you, I don't care how much you do for the school, your kid's going to earn his playing time on the field during practice week. So that opens it up to, okay, if you want to go get involved with the program, coaches need stuff, things like that. So to help the program succeed, parents need to be involved. West Morgan, luckily, we have a lot of involvement from the parents. I think that's a big thing for the parents to be involved because you do find out things about your coaching staff. You find out things about the program. And you find out what all it takes to run a program. From there, when your kid is, still showing that they want to go play outside high school, then contact you guys. That's been the biggest thing for us is, you work on your kids' skills to get them. Because like I said, you guys, just because you sign with you guys doesn't mean they're going to get an offer. The kids still have to be talented. Still got to have a body for it. Things that the college coaches are looking for. So if your kid is equipped with skills and size and things that a college coach is interested in, then you guys are the next step, right? So you feel like, okay, my kid has a dream to play. He does have potential to play. So what you guys offer is that recruiting service to go out and actually find some interest in the kid. Well, you're not sheltering that all on your own shoulders by trying to take them to these camps, every weekend in the summertime. You can forget about all that. Sign on with you guys, let you guys go out there and do the work, and you stay home and focus on getting your kid better so he can play on Friday nights, and hopefully get that exposure and build that film and things that they need to that the coaches want to see.
Right. And, at the end of the day, coaches are looking for somebody that's dedicated and has, motivation to play at the next level, and that's what they want to do. So if you have that mindset and you work hard and you get things done, everything that matters happens off before game days, before game days, what people don't see, then you go out there and perform, and that's when you get your recognition.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about the skills and things on game day, but you guys talk about it. One of the first things you put in your bio on your Twitter page or whatever you want to do is your GPA. So not only does that goes a lot for the parents of the house. You got to make sure your kids stay in the books because that college and you have to. I'm pretty old school. I was raised old school myself, so we're big on yes sir. No ma'am. Manners and things like that, respect. So learn respect from our coaching staff, which was great for the kids. The buying that our coaching staff was able to provide, but also a lot of that comes from home too. It's hard to coach a kid. Your high school coach has a hard time coaching a kid who don't respect anybody.
Right.
So as a parent, I would suggest you take a hard look at yourself too. If your kid doesn't want to play the next level, your grades is a big part of it. And being a coachable kid and respectful is a big part of that too.
Right.
Because like I said, we went to several camps where kids had bad attitudes and the coaches were turned off. They could run a 4-3-5 and do whatever they wanted to do. But if they were cocky or they could tell they had a bad attitude, the coaches were instantly turned off.
Right.
So not only you work on developing skills because you think that's all they're looking at, but those coaches are also looking at they want a kid that's going to do well in the classroom and one that's going to be respectful and coachable.
Right. Everything you do off the field matters. That's everything that goes into the playing the game of football happens off the field.
It does.
And so,
that's another thing that social media nowadays is crucial because so many kids get on there and blast all kinds of stuff. You don't want to just be showing what you're doing on Friday night.
his Wi-Fi is cut out.
Yeah, locked up.
I think his Wi-Fi just went out. Uh-oh.
I think it locked up.
That's all good. We can go ahead and do the closing remarks here then.
Okay.
All right. Well, Mr. Dusty, thank you for coming on and, talking about the process that you and Wes have been through and how you helped him, get through the process and what advice you gave him. So, audience, thank you all for tuning into the Prowler Podcast, and we look forward to expanding awareness of our platform, and we look forward to partnering with those who are serious about playing their sport at the next level. So it's always our goal to give you options and assist you in making the right choice. And our weekly quote this week is "Success isn't owned, it's leased, and rent is due every day." J.J. Watt. And so next week on our upcoming podcast, we will have another active player, and we look forward to having Jake Golday on, and he is at Cincinnati now. He came from Arlington High School, and he went to Central Arkansas. Then this spring portal opening, he entered the portal, and he's at Cincinnati now. And so he's going to talk about his high school recruiting process and his process going through the portal and what he did and how he got to where he is. So as always, Prowler up, and thank you, Mr. Dusty, again for coming on.
Thank you, Preston and Will.
Yes, sir. Preston.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Dusty.
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right.
See you.